Welcome to this episode, my friends. Today is all about filing a limited liability company registration yourself and things I want you to know as you prepare to file this thing DIY. Now, before we get into all of the details of limited liability companies, or I will refer to them as LLCs throughout the rest of this episode, if you're ready to file an LLC yourself and take the DIY approach, please be aware that we here at the Legal Page have DIY LLC registration guides for each and every state that you can grab from the TLP shop. And these guides will take you step by step through the process of registering your LLC all on your own through your state's online registration website. So the guide includes all of the necessary links, screenshots, and arrows on where to go, important definitions of LLC terms that you'll see pop up when you're registering and filing your articles of organization online to register your LLC, additional information related to annual dues, and also just other information to help you find necessary licenses in your state and local county. So basically, we've boiled everything down for you per state and made it super simple so there's no guessing game anymore, and you don't have to hire a lawyer to do this for you because I truly believe you can do it yourself if you run your own small business. So if you're ready to file and want support, just head over to thelegalpage.com/LLC. Again, that's thelegalpage.com/LLC. And let's get into this episode here. You're listening to the Legal Page podcast, where we chat about life and business with a legal twist. I'm Paige, attorney and photographer helping online businesses and creatives tackle their business dreams without breaking out in hives. No more legal mumbo jumbo. This podcast features simple, bite-sized advice that'll have you legally legit in no time. Are you ready? Let's get started. As a reminder, before we get into this episode, I am legally obligated to give my disclaimer. So I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney. All legal information I talk about on this episode is intended for the masses and a large variety of different businesses. I am only your attorney when you hire me and we sign an engagement letter for me to work specifically on your legal issues. Please feel free to seek out another attorney in your hometown if you need specific legal advice or contact me for more information. Alrighty, here's the episode, friends. Friends, thanks again for tuning in to today's episode. We're going to get right into all things LLC registrations and what you need to know to file yourself and DIY this. Think of this episode as kind of the first glimpse into our registration guides that you can purchase from our shop. So the podcast that I like to do is specifically, how you can better yourself and be a chief legal officer for your own business. And I wanted this episode to talk about how to register an LLC yourself, but obviously this is all audio. And I know that going online and actually filing those articles of organization for your LLC through your state's website can be a little bit confusing. So that is why these guides are a more visual representation of that. I'm going to go over almost everything you would need to know as you're opening up your state website pages, on your web browser here. And so you might even be able to DIY it yourself just by listening to this episode. But if you're more of a visual learner, you're definitely going to want to get the guides. And if you need additional help per your specific state, then that's what the guides are for as well. We also, I wanted to remind you, have a few blogs regarding kind of different LLC structures that you also may want to review before actually diving in to the registration application yourself. All right, so let's get started. Simply put, an LLC is a business structure, a limited liability company that provides very similar protections as a corporation, but LLCs are easier and much cheaper to form and run. So an LLC is a way for a business owner to protect themselves from personal liability. Thus, you want to look into forming an LLC if you are starting a business because it separates that personal liability from your business's liability. And if you've heard me say this before, I like to think of it as two bubbles. And I use the sound that goes where you have a bubble on one side and a bubble on the other, and they don't converge or merge together. They are two separate bubbles, one with your personal assets and all of your savings accounts and your home and your car and all of the things. And then over on the other side, you have your business assets and liabilities. And you don't want those business assets and liabilities commingled with your personal assets, right? Because we've worked hard to create a savings account, 401ks, build a house, build a home for ourselves. And we don't want those to be interrupted or be at risk with the business that we're creating, which is why an LLC essentially creates this entire bubble around your business. That's what if you can visualize that, that's the best way to start out this episode. It's just kind of telling you why an LLC is so important. It really truly makes your business separate. And if you're not an LLC yet, then what you are is a sole proprietor. And a sole proprietor is just an arm and extension of yourself and your social security number for your business, side hustle, hobby, or whatever. And once you actually want to make that a real registered business, then you need to look into filing a limited liability company registration. Now, what does that mean? The first step is you're going to want to familiarize yourself with how to file your LLC online in your home state. So most states allow you to file online, but it is important to double check this before you start the process. Since the pandemic, most every state in the US has moved to an online registration, portal. This is because every state's government agencies and, business buildings were shut down during the pandemic for quite some time. If you do recall, going and trying to, I got a new vehicle or had to re-register my vehicle or something. And they were closed for 6 months or 8 months after March 2020. So governments had to step it up real fast if they didn't have online LLC registration platforms or really online registration platforms for anything dealing with the state and businesses and, driver's licenses and, registering cars and things along those lines. So I would say there might be one or two still out there that only allow you to file in person or file by snail mail. The majority of other states, you can do it all online, which is very important and I think makes it so much easier to DIY yourself, which is why I wanted to record this episode now. So next it's time to file, right? You familiarize yourself with your government agency that's allowing you to do this. Usually it's the Secretary of State's website. Maybe it's a different department or agency of your state government. But honestly, if you just Google file LLC registration insert your state, then you will get directed to the right page. Just make sure it's usually a .gov page so that it is a legitimate state website and you're not paying someone to file it for you. That's an Illuminous online platform that's trying to kind of mask themselves as a state government website. Look out for that. So just familiarize yourself. That's step one. Step two is you got to actually file. So first thing is you must obtain kind of name reservation prior to filing your LLC formation documents in some states. So we have kind of in our LLC guides, we have where to find this link for your state. And a name reservation allows you to basically call dibs on the name that you've selected from being taken while you get your business launched. And so people who are not quite ready to file their LLC will file a name reservation application within their state to start. So this should not be confused with a trademark registration, though, which is a different form of protection. This is literally just you are trying to reserve this business name for your state and you anticipate filing LLC formation documents next. If you are just ready to file your LLC formation documents right now, A lot of times these are all inclusive. So filing your articles of organization also helps reserve that name in your state's registration database so that other businesses couldn't take your business name. And so you can either do it one of both ways. You can file your name reservation first until you get, all of your ducks in a row to file your LLC registration documents. Or you can just file your LLC registration documents and you're getting that name reservation with it. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so now you need to actually file your LLC. And these are oftentimes just referred to as articles of organization. You're filing some type of registration application with your, on the online platform through your state's website. And it can be called a certificate of formation. It can be called just articles of organization. Those are the things you're going to be looking for. So within this online application, they're going to ask you a lot of things. First, you may have to sign up for this online portal where, you choose a username and a password, and then it goes to your email, and then you have to go back and log in. And then under that user account is where you would file your LLC registration documents. You're usually going to look for on the side, file a domestic limited liability company. Those are the buttons you're looking for in this online portal. And then it'll take you to an application page, and it'll either say you're filing a certificate of formation or you're filing your articles of organization. If you're there, you're in the right place if you're DIYing this. So good job, pat yourself on the back. Within this application, though, there's going to be some terms that you're confused about, and so I want to go over them here. The first thing is you need to name your LLC. So they're going to ask you, what do you want to name your LLC? If you have already filed a kind of name reservation application, then you will just be selecting the name reservation that you have. But most all online platforms only allow you to choose a name with the term LLC somewhere in it. So it has to include the words either Limited Liability Company, all spelled out, or the abbreviation LLC or L.L.C. So for example, when we filed our articles of organization in the state of Montana, we are the legal Paige, LLC. So note that the name of your LLC must be distinguishable from the names of other LLCs, corporations, or limited partnerships on file with your state. And there will be an alert for you, usually in a drop-down or something along those lines, that the name has been taken. Something to be aware of if you are worried about, is this the right LLC name for me? So you have to name your LLC in this online application. And then you also have to choose an effective date. So it can either be the date that you're applying for, or you can input a delayed effective date. So usually it's just right away. If you're going to file your articles of organization for your LLC, you're like, I want to be an LLC as soon as freaking possible, which means you want the effective date to be today, the day that you're filing online. But sometimes there would be situations where you just need a couple more weeks or something along those lines where you'd want a delayed effective date. But they're going to ask you for those things on kind of the first page. Then you're going to get to a section in your application about registered agents. This is where a lot of people get confused, and I think then they start thinking immediately they need a lawyer's help. And that's not necessarily the case. Let me just explain to you what a registered agent is. So in general, a registered agent can be really any person who's at least 18 years old and has a physical address, mailing address, you can't have a PO box here, where your LLC receives official mail. So oftentimes business owners just choose to simply put themselves as registered agents, and then they list their home physical address. But remember, this is public information. Your LLC registration lives in a public area that people can search and access. And also they kind of share this information with state agencies as well. So if you're not comfortable providing your home address for privacy reasons, you're going to need to find another registered agent in your hometown. And these are really easy to do. So lots of times, lawyers like to file LLC documents for their clients because they end up being their own, their client's registered agent. They will receive the official legal documents and all of that, which makes sense because the lawyer wants to keep tabs on what's happening with their clients in terms of their registrations. But you can also just have a registered agent in your hometown that literally only serves as being kind of that home address for you for privacy purposes, allowing you to keep your home address private. So just type into Google like registered agent, insert hometown, comma state. And I can tell you like the first 5 tabs that come up are going to be legitimate registered agents that you can just choose to have in your hometown. The one thing I want to note here is while you can be your own registered agent, I do know that there are some states out there that don't allow you to do this. You have to have a separate registered agent from the owner of the LLC. And so in that case, if you do have privacy concerns, you're going to want to find a legitimate registered agent in your hometown. Usually it's pretty inexpensive to hire these people. I feel like you're kind of just hiring out a mailbox at someone's home address, but they also, are taking on some responsibilities on your behalf where they do need to notify you if you have mail or you have like official state documentation that you need to come get from them. And so that's why it's important to kind of have a legitimate registered agent in your hometown if you are in that position. It costs really inexpensively around $50 to $100 a year to like hire someone to be your registered agent. I like to think of this kind of person as like a notary, right? Like they're official with the state. They've, become a registered agent on behalf of others, just like a notary would. They, have responsibilities that they have to abide by and fiduciary duties and things along those lines. But it's way less expensive for you because they can be registered agents for multiple businesses. So that's why it shouldn't be that expensive. If a registered agent is charging you like hundreds and hundreds of dollars per year, you're probably in the wrong place. So don't do that. Be aware, right? Be aware, red flag signs. Now, in your DIY LLC registration application online, if you're doing this yourself, you are also going to be asked the term of your LLC, which means how long do you want your LLC to be effective? So you have an effective date, and then is it terminated at some point in time, or is this happening forever and ever until you decide to dissolve your LLC with the state? That's usually the case. So usually you won't want to select your term to be like the date of the LLC shall end on X date. You usually want to click what's called perpetual or in perpetuity because you want your business to live forever, so long as you keep filing annual reports to keep it active, or if you choose to dissolve it. So when they ask for the term of your LLC, you're going to want to choose perpetual or in perpetuity. And then another question that people oftentimes get confused on or stumble across is, do you want to be member managed or manager managed? The funny thing is, I do have a little tangent, anecdote I want to talk about here. You guys, when I was studying for the bar exam right after law school, this was such a nuanced issue in the law that it wasn't like one of those big things that you need to study for. The bar exam is one of the hardest exams to pass, and you have to know basically every the overarching themes and approaches and laws surrounding various topics. So business law, evidence, civil procedure, property law, so on and so forth, okay? And contracts, for example. And this was part of business transactional law. And it was such a minutia issue that lots of people didn't study this very specific thing. And guess what? It was a question on my bar exam, on the written portion where you have to actually type out, a whole essay about, is this supposed to be member managed or manager managed? And I will never forget that for the rest of time, because I remember all of us leaving the bar exam and we looked at each other and everyone was like, who actually studied that issue? And there was maybe one person out of 80 that knew the actual answer. And we were all just kind of flailing around trying to gain points in this essay, even though we didn't really even know what the question was asking us. Okay, we're we're not even lawyers, right? We're baby, just post-grad law students. And so when this comes up in LLC registrations, I just kind of chuckle to myself because now I know this like the back of my hand, but I'm like, you guys, it's okay. If you're a business owner and you're DIYing this yourself online, it is okay to not know what member managed or manager managed is, because even law students don't really know what that is. Let me tell you. So I'm going to boil it down for you. If you are the sole owner and operator of your business, you're going to want to choose manager managed. And so you would input here that you're the sole manager who owns 100% of your limited liability company. And this means that you are the only sole manager of the business and you operate all of the day-to-day operations of your business. This is the easiest one for you to choose, and usually it defaults to manager managed. The difference between member managed and manager managed, though, is when you have like multiple members in a business, and say you like LLCs can be structured very similarly to corporations. For our intensive purposes as, solopreneurs here, you're most likely 99.9% of the time going to be manager managed LLC. But if you do, have a partnership, or you have like a board of directors or managers of your LLC, and then you have members down below, that's where like member managed LLCs come into place. I'm going to stop here because I don't want to get too far into the weeds. If you're confused on what the difference is between the two and you want more information on, maybe you're like, oh, Paige mentioned member managed LLC. I think I am for sure a manager managed LLC, but I just want a little bit more clarification. Please refer to our blog at thelegalpage.com on member managed LLCs versus manager managed LLCs. And we'll link that in the show notes for you. Okay, the last thing that you really need to be aware of in your articles of organization or certificate of formation that you're filing online is an LLC operating agreement, if you have one. If you don't have one, it's okay. You don't have to upload a document here. It's usually absolutely optional. But if you want like an additional business formation document that really tells people like what your business is for, how you want to wind up business, what happens with capital contributions, this is absolutely critical if you are in a partnership LLC. You want to upload this type of document to your state's website, but you have to have the document to begin with, right? To upload. Good news is we have template LLC operating agreements at thelegalpage.com. So just go into the search tab and type in LLC operating agreement, and it'll be the first one to pop up. And just remember, you don't have to upload anything more than an operating agreement at this stage in your business. And I wouldn't. Sometimes you can file additional documents, and that's really for lawyers to file additional documents. For yourself, one, it's optional. You don't need to have an operating agreement. If you're the only one running the business and you're the only one making the decisions and you're the only one dealing with income and expenses and debt, for example, you don't really totally need one. But if you're like, I just want to lay all of this out in case I ever, have someone purchase my business later on, they're probably going to want to see an LLC operating agreement. If I have anyone that ever joins me as kind of a joint ownership of the LLC, they're probably going to want to see an operating agreement. So it is a good thing to have at the get-go. If you're okay with like using a template document, I would definitely suggest just doing that, filling in all of the yellow highlighted information that we have in our template contracts at thelegalpage.com, and then you're ready to go. Like, it shouldn't take you more than a half an hour to put together and be able to upload with your LLC registration. Other steps I want you to be aware of when filing your LLC registration yourself is that if you're submitting the application to the Secretary of State or some department or agency of, your state government, you do have to pay a filing fee. So this is a one-time fee that you pay, and it varies state to state. Some states are way more expensive than others, and it is just the one-time like application fee for them to process your LLC application and then actually send you the registration documents. So for example, Alabama has a fee of about $200, where Montana has a fee of only $70. I know California and New York are extremely expensive to file. I think in California, it's almost $800 for an application fee. And that seems like a lot, but I just don't want this fee to deter you from filing an LLC, because the benefits to forming an LLC definitely outweigh the filing fee. And I like to think of this as the best insurance you're ever going to get for your business. And it's a one-time fee for that type of insurance. So think of it along those lines. Just check it out. I want you guys to be aware of all of the money that is involved with filing and registering your LLC. First, there is the filing fee, and then there are annual or biannual fees. And those fees you will pay in addition. So you're going to pay your filing fee first, and that's all you got to worry about. And then in a year, for most states, they have an annual fee. It might be biannual, but we're going to stick with annual here. If you are continuing your LLC the following year, the state's going to contact you and say, hey, your annual dues are due on March 30th or something along those lines. Usually it's in the springtime, kind of like taxes. And they're going to say you need to pay your annual dues. And those are usually less than your filing fee. So in Montana, I think it's like $25 or $30. It's very inexpensive to have LLCs here in Montana. But in other states, it's like $50 or something along those lines. You shouldn't be in the hundreds or thousands of dollars by any means. If you are, you're probably not filing through your state website. You're filing through some weird online platform. So be aware of those red flags. But again, you're just technically alerting your state government that, yes, I'm still in business. Yes, I still want this protection with my LLC bubble. Yes, here are my dues. I'm going to, continue to stay an active business registered in my state. Then you also, once you're done with your LLC registration, sometimes it takes a few days, sometimes it takes a week. It shouldn't take more than a couple weeks or a month to get your registration documents back. So you're going to get a registration number that your business is licensed as an LLC in your state. It should just be like a series of letters and numbers in your state that kind of give you that certification number that you're an LLC. And once you have that document, it's going to be like some official letter or document through your state. Sometimes they send it in the mail. Most of the time, they'll just send it online. Then you can do the next steps that you absolutely have to do as an LLC. You have to, one, get an employer identification number or EIN number through the federal government. And you can get all of this at the irs.gov at no charge. You should never have to pay for an EIN. So you literally just type in irs.gov, and there's a button on the homepage that says like file for an employer identification number. But you can't do that until you can input your LLC registration number through your state. Then once you have your EIN and your LLC registration number, you got to go form a business bank account because, again, we're separating our personal assets and liabilities and risks from our business ones. And so you need all of that in a different bubble in a different business bank account. And most banks don't allow you to form a business bank account without your EIN and without your LLC registration number. So you're going to bring all of those documents into your bank. I know you can also do this online. There are some online banking systems that allow you to form business bank accounts if you have these numbers. So, you can go through a credit union in your hometown or you can go through a big bank online. It's your choice here. The main thing that I just want to remind you of is the reason that you're creating this business bank account is because you're not commingling funds. If you commingle funds and you're kind of like having those cha-ching income and expense moments coming in and out of your business account and out of your personal account, you're essentially what's called piercing the corporate veil in legal terms. And that just means you're popping that LLC bubble that I talked about at the beginning of this episode. And you want to keep that bubble intact with your business bank account. You can reconcile transactions, you guys. There's always going to be moments where you make a mistake and you pay for your groceries on your business card accidentally, then you just want to reconcile that every month. It's when you start doing it very consistently and you're just commingling to commingle, then your LLC really isn't an LLC anymore. You're just a sole proprietor. You're going to lose all of the benefits of registering from the get-go. And then additionally to this, just treat yourself like an employee. I want you to pay yourself like an employee. So, transfer those funds from your business bank account into your personal bank account when you're paying yourself. You don't have to do this on the regular. Sometimes it's easier for businesses to pay themselves, bi-weekly or monthly, but just have that cha-ching moment And, when you're having that transfer from your business account to your personal account, put in a little memo that this is owner's pay, owner's pay, owner's pay. That's important so that it tracks at the end of the year for tax liability purposes. Now, keep in mind that being an LLC owner has benefits, including being able to write off many, many business expenses. And so keeping your funds separate allows you to keep track of expenses easier, which will ultimately help you write off more during tax season. Your accountant will thank you for this. You will thank yourself for this at the end of the year when you have this business bank account all set up. So not only is it absolutely mandatory and necessary, legally speaking, to keep your LLC actually an LLC and your liability and risks all contained within that bubble, but it's also beautiful for keeping track of your finances, your business finances for the end of the year. A couple other things I wanted to touch on. Another question that we get asked all the time in our TLP community on Facebook is people ask, when should I file for my LLC? And my answer is really simple: when you're ready. You don't need to do it at the beginning of the year. You don't need to, worry about it all the time. I did want to get this episode out at the beginning of the year because I do think it's a great way to start out your business year. If you're, wanting to move from a sole proprietor to an LLC, literally the best time to do it is at the beginning of the year. But if you're just starting your business, say in July, and then in August, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I think I need to be an LLC. Boom. That's when you're ready. That's when you file it. Like, don't wait until the following January. I don't know why there's some misinformation out there, but you file your LLC right away when you're ready, ASAP. Hence, just don't wait for the perfect time tax-wise, or when you're a little bit bigger of a business, or when you can hire the right people to file on your behalf. Filing now is more important versus waiting. And that's why I try to tell people all the time, you don't need a CPA to do this for you. You don't need to pay them to do it for you. You don't need a lawyer to pay to do this for you. I mean, some people would just like to put all of that liability onto the professionals. And I get that. Like, if you're that type of business owner, totally, and you have the disposable income, or you have, enough savings built up in order to pay professionals to do this who have professional malpractice insurance, then yeah, absolutely hire the professional to do it. That's why there's CPAs that, have taken the CPA exam. That's why there's lawyers that have taken the bar exam. That's why there's certifications out there for professionals. They will take on all of that risk for you. But one thing I have learned time and time again is LLC registration is not that difficult. You can absolutely do it yourself. I'm giving you all of the power to do so in this episode. So really just open up your webpage and do it yourself right away if you're ready to go and you're ready to be an LLC. So there you have it, my friends. We have laid out essentially what you need to do to file an LLC registration yourself and a few things that you need to know when you're first getting started on this DIY journey. Another major point I wanted to cover is that every state is different. So if you're going to DIY this yourself, please do your research, as different states can require different things. For example, California is one of the most complicated places to have LLCs. So if you're in California and you're a business owner, each year after you register your LLC, you have to pay a California annual LLC tax, which is $800 plus additional fees on top of that, like percentages, if you make over $250,000. It's one of the only states that does that. New York also has specifics in terms of public notices that you are an LLC and putting it in newspapers. It's kind of old school, archaic way of doing things. But I think New York still does that. Most states are pretty straightforward, and you just pay your filing fee and then you pay your annual dues and then you're done, and you're not going to have all these additional fees. California just makes it really hard to be a business owner, and it's super annoying. Shout out to all my lawyers and biz friends in California, because you guys you're doing great. You're literally the cream of the crop in terms of knowing what you're doing business-wise down there. Also, you're going to want to contact your county clerk where you're doing business, so also known as where your home county is. Your vicinity is also important for licensing purposes. So the state level is where you get your LLC registration, okay? in your state, not the federal government, in your state. And then you have, okay, my business is registered, but is there any additional like licenses or permits that I need? And those, some are state-based, like I would say maybe 5% of licenses are state-based. Most of them are on a county level. And your county clerk will be able to tell you this. And one thing I've learned is that county clerks are amazing at customer service. They might like, I feel like we all have these weird like movie scenes in our minds of what like clerk of courts look like, and they're disgruntled people, and I don't know. That's not the case. Usually they're most of the time super, super, super happy, and they're there to help their citizenry in their hometown, in their county. So just literally go down in person or call your county clerk and be like, hey, I just registered my LLC. This is the type of business that I run. Are there any type of permits or licenses that you have knowledge of that I need? You can also just go to your county's website and they will oftentimes be able to tell you. Sometimes you need to get like an at-home business permit so that this, county knows you're operating a business in and out of your home. A lot of times you don't have to get that if people aren't coming physically onto your property. If you're just kind of operating like an online business from your property, oftentimes you don't need that type of permit. But again, you have to ask your county clerk what is required of your business if you are operating from your house, and they will point you in the right direction. It's always better to get it from the horse's mouth, which is the county clerks and the clerk's office, because if they tell you no, you don't need it, then you have documentation to that effect. Have some type of follow-up email, or you can at least point to the fact that you went in, you talked to them, and they told you didn't need any permits or licenses. So at least you did your due diligence there. So that's the last little bit of information I wanted to relay to you on how to set up and DIY an LLC registration for your business. I hope you found this episode helpful. If you have any additional questions, you can always reach out to us. The easiest way to contact us for LLC purposes and questions is in our Facebook group, which is the Legal Paige Community on Facebook. Just type that into the search bar in, your Facebook platform or your app, and then request to join. We have a couple questions, just to make sure you're a business owner. And then that is a great way to, one, get community support from other fellow entrepreneurs who are probably in the same place as you. There's also probably people in your state in that group. We have thousands of people in this group, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction too if you're confused in DIYing your LLC registration documents. So it's a really great resource. We can't personally answer one-on-one questions here at the Legal Page because we're just a legal education platform. You would have to talk to an attorney if you have specific questions regarding your state registration, which is why I opened up the TLP community on Facebook to begin with, because that's a great place to get information without having to pay for an attorney. So I hope I see you in there if you have any additional questions. If not, good luck, my friends. I give you every pat on the back possible, and I've given you as many tools as I can here in this podcast episode. Go get your LLC registered, and I'll see you on the flip side of being a legit legal business in your state. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Legal Page Podcast. See, I told you being legally legit isn't so scary. Be sure to visit thelegalpage.com for all show notes. And it would be super awesome if you could head over to iTunes and leave a review. Last but not least, don't forget to join my free Facebook group for unlimited legal and biz Q&A. Chat soon, Legal Pagers.